Welcome. Today's lecture is about file operations in programming. The file system is the most obvious aspect of any operating system. This provides users the method for storage and access to data as well as programs of the operating system. The outline of this lecture will be focused on 5 topics. First, what is a file? Second, file data types. Third, text input and output. Fourth, concept of create, read, update and delete or CRUD. And finally, some example of implementation of file output formatting in Python. First topic, what is a file? A computer file is used to store data in digital format like plain text, image data, or any other content. Computer files can be organized inside different directories or folders. Files are used to keep digital data, whereas directories are used to keep files. Computer files can be considered as the digital counterpart of paper documents. As far as programming is concerned, you keep your source code in text file with different extensions. For example, a C++ programming file will have an extension of .cpp, while Python files ends with .py. Usually, you create files using text editors such as Notepad, Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, and etc. However, many times we need to create files using computer programs as well. We can even modify an existing file using a computer program. On to second topic, file data types. The illustration summarizes the file data types. These include integer, real or float data types, whole and decimal numbers, and string or character data types. Next is the Boolean data type represented in a single byte with true and false or 1 and 0 value. Then comes the date and time data type which handle both the date and time parts. After that, array data type. An array is a data type that represents a collection of elements which is used to hold values or variables, each selected by one or more indices or also known as identifying keys. Such collection is usually called as an array or one-dimensional array in which the values are arranged in list form. There is also a multidimensional or 2D arrays in which the values are arranged in tabular form. Here are some examples of data types in Python, which include number, string, list, tuple, and a dictionary. Please read thoroughly from slide number 5 until 11 from the PDF file for better understanding. This illustration summarizes the file data type including list methods that are used in Python. Third topic will cover text input and output. A program usually needs to communicate with the outside world by obtaining input data from the user and displaying the result back to the user. Input may come directly from the user via the keyboard or from some external source like a file or database. Output can be displayed directly to the console or IDE, to the screen via graphical user interface or GUI, or again to an external source. More on Python input and output using file object. Variables are a fine way to store data while your program is running, but if you want your data to persist even after your program has finished, you need to save it to a file. A file has two key properties. First is a file name. The file name is usually written as one word, and secondly is the path. The path specifies the location of a file on the computer. The part of the file name after the last period or dot is called the file's extension and tells you the file's type. A file is placed in a directory or folder. Folders can contain files and other folders as well. There are two ways to specify a file path. First, an absolute path, which always begins with the root folder, and second, a relative path, which is relative to the program's current working directory. Here are some examples of absolute versus relative paths for files. The illustration shows folder organization for absolute and relative paths. Please note that the C drive part of the path is the root folder, which contains all other folders. On Windows platform, the root folder is named C drive, while on Linux or Mac OS platform, the root folder is called /dot. In Python, We can even write or display strings or numbers using the built-in odd function. The odd function in Python accepts a string of length 1 as an argument and returns the Unicode value or ASCII representation of the passed argument. For example, odd for small letter a will return a value of 97, which is a Unicode or an ASCII value of character a, and etc. Details of these Unicode values, please search for ASCII table from the web search engine. By the way, ASCII stands for American Standards Code for Information Interchange. Computer can only understand numbers, so an ASCII code is a numerical representation of a character, such a letter A or a hash, and so on. Next topic is CRUD. Within computer programming, the acronym CRUD stands for Create, Read, Update, and Delete. These are the four basic functions of persistent storage. Also, each letter in the acronym can refer to all functions executed in a relational database applications and map to a standard HTTP method or an SQL statement. It can also describe user interface conventions that allow viewing, searching, and modifying information through computer-based forms and reports. Most applications have some form of CRUD functionality. In fact, every programmer has to deal with CRUD at some point. Not to mention, a CRUD application is one that utilizes forms to retrieve and return data from a text file or a database. Implementation of CRUD will be shown in our lab exercises. Please tune for that pre-recorded video on YouTube. This slide onwards will briefly cover how Python handles one of the most important components of any operating system, the files and directories. Fortunately, Python has built-in function to create and manipulate files, either flat files or text files. The built-in I/O or input-output module is the default module for accessing files. Therefore, we will not need to import or install any external library for general I/O operations. File output formatting, particularly in Python, utilizes these following modes. First mode is the R mode or read-only mode. If you are going to just read an existing file and you do not want to write any further content in the file, then you will open the file in read-only mode. Almost all programming languages provide syntax to open files in read-only mode. Next, the RB mode or read binary mode. It is exclusively used on Windows platform where the letter B is append to existing modes like the read RB, write WB, and even in append AB mode, which opens the file as read-only in binary format. A binary format can be used for different purposes. It is usually used when dealing with things like images, videos, and etc. Python on Windows makes a distinction between text and binary files. The end-of-line characters in the text files are automatically altered slightly when data is read or written. This behind-the-scene modification to the file data is fine for ASCII text files, but it will corrupt binary data like that in JPEG or PDF files. Be very careful to use binary mode when reading and writing such files. While on Linux or macOS platform, it doesn't hurt to append the letter B to the mode, so you can use it platform independently for all binary files. In addition to read binary mode, it will start reading from the beginning of the file as a default. Next, the R+ or read plus mode. This mode will open a file for reading and writing from the beginning with no truncating. Finally, the RB+ mode opens a file for both reading and writing, again in binary format. The file pointer will be placed at the beginning of the file. Second mode is known as writing mode or write-only mode. If you are going to write into either an existing file or a newly created file but you do not want to read any written content from that file, then you will open the file in write-only mode. All the programming languages provide syntax to open files in write-only mode. In Python, a write mode or W mode opens a text file for writing. Here, your program will start writing content from the beginning of the file. If the file for writing does not exist, a new file will be created. Else, If the file exists, then it will truncate the file. Again, in write mode, there are write binary or WB, write plus or W plus, and write binary plus, WB plus. Detailed description can be read from the slides. Third mode is the append mode, denoted by the letter A. When you open a file for writing, it allows you to start writing from the beginning of the file. However, it will overwrite existing content, if any. Suppose we don't want to overwrite any existing content, then we open the file in append mode. Append mode is ultimately a write mode, which allows contents to be appended at the end of the file. Almost all the programming languages provide syntax to open files in append mode. Similar to read and write modes, the append mode also features the append binary or AB mode, append plus or A plus mode, and the append binary plus or AB plus mode to be used. This is the implementation of file input and output formatting in Python. Please read thoroughly from slide number 20 until 27 from the PDF file for better understanding. Some of this implementation has been used in our current lab exercises and also be used for future assignments.